Hello again. This week, the whistle is the Waltons Standard D, this time in the electroplated nickel barrel with the black plastic top. I know when I did the video on the nickel Waltons C with the red plastic top, that at the time that video was made, some of the commenters were saying that they couldn't find them anywhere, and I couldn't either, actually, after I read the comments. I don't know if Waltons is still making nickel-plated whistles or not. I don't know, what the story is with availability on these anymore. However, I'm not letting go of the ones that I have because I like the sound of nickel, which I know you're going to tell me it doesn't sound different, and I'm going to tell you it does. And we can argue all day, and you can give me whatever your feelings and thoughts are on physics, and I will tell you what I hear. It's my show. I prefer the nickel barrel whistles. It is my opinion that something about the electroplating does something to the way the body resonates, and even if it is just a tiny, tiny difference, I hear it. I'm not alone in this. There are others that do. It's not an aesthetic choice. I don't care what the whistle really looks like. It doesn't matter to me that it's silver and shiny or goldish and shiny. It just is a sound thing. Nickel plated whistles tend to have a tighter, brighter sound. I'm kind of jumping the gun and going ahead and listing what I would say are pros of this whistle in terms of a brighter tone, a nice sort of bird-like chirp. It's got a little bit of rasp, still a little more like a Fadog or a generation whistle than maybe the oak or something else. For about $9 or $10 US, it's kind of hard to beat. It's pretty evenly tuned. I mean, I have done the old blue tack tweak. I don't know if you can see it in this light, but it's in there. I have, in doing so, given it a little bit of a retune. I've found that mass-produced whistles, almost all, are always just a little sharper coming out of the factory than they need to be. And I don't know if it's because I'm in a warmer climate than where most of these things are made, or if there are other issues at play. But I always end up retuning my whistles. Breath pressure for this whistle is about average. It's not super breathy. It's not very tight either, so it's kind of right up the middle. It's a pretty solid whistle to practice on, and it will shriek if you let your breath and your fingering get out of control. Any whistle will, to some degree more or less, shriek and make weird noises if you just don't play it right. If I had to name some cons of this whistle, I would say that, again, it is subject to some of the same issues that just about all mass-produced whistles have in terms of massive volume difference between the lower octave and the upper octave, some potential extra jumpiness to the cavity under the windway that I always fill with the blue tack. That mitigates a bit of the problem and does tend to take a lot of the superfluous hiss out of the top, which is just air swirling around and being wasted on non-musical sound. Is it a good beginner whistle? I think so. I think just about everything that I've seen that Walton makes is good in that category in terms of being good for a beginner, because they're fairly stable, fairly reliable whistles. They do tend to have some quality control variance, not as much as maybe Generation or Fadog as I've seen. And I don't want to appear biased. It's just my observation. I've got 20 Generations and at least half as many Fadogs and half as many of these. Relatively easy to play. It doesn't cost a lot. It's not too hard to do the tweak. Give it a little soak and get this head off so you can retune and put the blue tack in there. Some of the Generation whistles especially, I've had a massive amount of difficulty getting those heads loose. I don't know if it is a difference in some glue that they're using, or perhaps they're measurement here with their molding is super tight. But especially with the C whistles and some of the B flats, the generations are really hard to get the head off. I don't really have that problem with the Walton whistles, but the Walton whistles only come in D and C. I wish that Walton made everything in both bare brass and in the electroplated nickel, because I would really like to have a nickel plated melody, and this for now is as close as I'm going to get to that. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. For $9 or $10, it's really good. And for those of us who can spare an extra $9 or $10 here or there and experiment with different whistles, it's worth a try. That was the Walton Standard D nickel body with the black plastic top. Thanks for watching again this week, and we'll see you next time when we play something a bit different.